Now, I do have a bit of a reputation when it comes to public speaking that I'm a bit heavy on the innuendo, to the point that our ex-national chairman refers to me as Dirty Beth. However, Helen, do not worry, I'm going to be on my best behaviour today. I did, however, stick to tradition by leaving it to the very last minute to write my speech. We started the competition year strong by winning the District Rally Trophy, meaning that our name... I've missed that bit, okay. Members then went on to compete at County and Northern Area, with Neve, Lucy and Grace even making it through to compete at Nationals. We then went on to win a first and a third at the district quiz, and then of course winning the district rally in April, as well as the Craig Coleman Cup for the 17th time. So I do have a couple of thank yous to make. I want to thank Joe Penny, who despite now spending most of his time in Penrith, has absolutely smashed the treasurer role. Joe Holmes, who despite doing a house up and being heavily involved with county office, has smashed the secretary role and even managed to stay unstressed on District Rally Day, something that I definitely did not manage. So we decided to do the programme role a little differently this year and split it into sections, with Amy Snowden arranging meetings such as Get Home Quick, talks by gamekeepers and a visit to Within the Woods, Izzy Clay organising the stock judging meetings, and Josh Hudson organising the charity and volunteering meetings, and Archie Clavin organising the meetings subsidised by the I Will grant. It's been all hands on deck with everyone getting stuck in. I'd also like to thank all of our club leaders this year who have helped in one way or another and managed to keep myself and Joe just about sane throughout. Helen, our chief public speaking trainer, who is always on hand to help the juniors and who is that confident in Worth Valley's public speaking ability, she's trained half of the other clubs in the district this year too, just to give us a little bit of competition. Adele, whether she's ferrying the older junior members to a young farmer's do in some random town, setting up a slip and slide, or drinking boxes of wine with me in London till 2 a.m. Rachel, our chief flower arranging tutor, who organises all into creating the centrepieces for our tables today. Kets, who is way more organised than myself and Joe put together, and manages to keep a track of both of our diaries, but way better than we do. Subi, who somehow manages to fit young farmers in around being chair of Oakworth Manorland's fundraising, singing with the Yorkshire Voices and making cricket teas. And Spud, who to be honest needed a little bit more guidance around London than Seth did. So this year, Worth Valley has gone from strength to strength, and it's been an absolute honour to be chairman for the club in its 80th year. Whilst the club is really healthy at the moment with 54 current members, there are some big gaps in the upper age groups, and so we're starting to put together some content for social media, as you know. This will hopefully encourage more older members who will use YFC as a stepping stone into their career or university. This is why our former member, Mark Brunskill, and his colleague is here, not just to get some general footage of the event, but to record some short sound bites after the speeches with people who have benefited in their jobs or businesses from being a member of a Young Farmers Club. We'd really appreciate it if as many as possible could go and give them a couple of minutes of their time to help us with this. It'll also show the name of your business, so it'll be a nice little free advert for you too. This being said, however, the new generation of members that we have coming through seem really determined to make us into a proper Young Farmers Club, whose members are actually young farmers. Members now turn up on tractors, dress in the standard shuffle gilet, check shirt, jeans and dealer boots, and as a club we even won Stockman of the Year, something that would have seemed pretty unbelievable for the club just a few years back. We became so rural that we decided we'd have to bring them all back into the real world a little bit by taking a little trip to London to visit the Houses of Parliament, see a show and do a bit of sightseeing. As you can imagine, a lot of planning went into the trip. I was booking coaches, Joe completing risk assessments, Abdul collecting Chantley's pies for the journey. When asked what they thought of the capital while stood outside Buckingham Palace, the only comment that could be heard was from George Atkinson, who boldly stated, "It's just like a big Keighley, this, isn't it?" Honestly, we're really rural. So, it's now my duty to introduce our president and speaker for today, Abdul. Not long after he was elected as our new president, Abdul agreed to be the minibus driver and took some members to a young farmers do in Longridge. Though after a night of mopping up vomit, his findings from this trip were that COVID had resulted in young people having absolutely no idea how to drink. As some of you know, he does love a graph, and by the time the next do came around, he had created the fun zone graph. A briefing was held before setting off to the do. Drink too little and they would fall into the boring zone. Drink a bit more and you'd enter the fun zone. Obviously the place to be. But watch out you don't drink too much or you'll enter the knob zone. Amazingly, it did work on that occasion. However, unfortunately the same can't be said for the county quiz, where Abs had to pull the minibus over on the way home. We ended up being there for so long that one member fell asleep under a bush. They really will find any excuse for a party, and we've now figured out that if you want them to do anything, you just need to promise them that there'll be a bar there and they'll sign straight up. At the start of the year, our big project was to get the club back performing on stage, and this year's competition was the entertainment competition, with a time limit of 30 minutes per performance. So of course, as per tradition, Abdul wrote a drama, with a running time of 55 minutes. We travelled all the way to Hull to take part in the Northern Area competition and came last, with 64 time faults. We were all genuinely delighted with the result. So for those of you who don't know, Abdul has always done fairly well at getting the club grants, and so it was no surprise that within weeks of being elected, we received funding for £11,500 from the Global Youth Fund's I Will campaign. What was a surprise though was that the grant was linked to masculinity, when the only people from the club that they had met was Abdul, Joe and Nathan. How they got that when they couldn't make a proper man between them is anyone's guess. This week he brought along to our club meeting a Chinese father and son who couldn't speak a word of English. He's absolutely not right, but we elected him as president, so we probably should have known what we were letting ourselves in for. So, for anyone who's ever trained at public speaking or shouted at for not being loud enough, funny enough or German enough when practising for a drama, this is your chance to get your own back. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing I'd like to do is thank Susan for volunteering to take a gap year in her presidency to allow me to be president on the 80th year after COVID messed up the numbers. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Beth and the team for pulling all this together. We're used to kind of building the marquee, we're not used to titivating it. So she's done a very fine job, and so have all the team. Give them a big round of applause. Now, I know it's traditional to say what an honour it is to be the president for an anniversary celebration, and it is, but for a man who still regards himself as an active member of this club, this just seems way too soon for me to be doing this. I can only presume that the perception of my level of health is such that you thought you'd better get me in now before it's too late. It was also a risk taking me on, as when I've been a president before, things haven't quite gone to plan. One was Keighley Show, which was cancelled 2 years in a row after I was elected the president, and the other was the Airedale Aspire BNI group. I was only president there for 14 days before the group folded. And in that time, one of our most entrepreneurial members who was more entrepreneurial than we realised, was arrested when the police discovered his large cannabis factory under his Keighley Town Centre stoneyard. This previous bad form, together with the fact I'm never far away from springing a practical joke or saying or doing something stupid, means that after being elected Vice President 3 years ago, I have to try extra hard not to bring this club into disrepute. I have created an ally to help me with this. Now, my mum and dad will tell you that when I was 4, I had an imaginary friend called Baked Bean. But my grown-up imaginary friend is called Malcolm. And over the last few years, it is not me, but Malcolm, who has driven across Connolly Cricket Ground, causing a big rut on the pitch. It was Malcolm that smashed the Foster Park ornamental stone arch minutes after it had been officially opened by the Denham Mayor. And it was Malcolm who was responsible for dropping a full trailer load of floorboards onto Nathan Greenwood's foot last year, causing him to limp off, never to be seen again. Until today. Good to have you back, Nathan. Woo! So, with Malcolm taking the blame for my sins, I got through almost the full 3 years. But then, with only days to go until the club AGM, and with Malcolm in Ibiza on an imaginary lad's holiday with Baked Bean, things took a dark turn for me, as I was banned for life from Oakworth Road petrol station. I'm still not absolutely sure what I did to deserve the punishment, but essentially the management didn't approve of the way I handled his nozzle. But luckily, life bans from the local petrol station are not printed in the newspaper or posted online, so I made it to the president with my reputation just about intact. That said, within weeks my curse appeared to have struck again. As Beth said, on a club trip to the Houses of Parliament, we stayed at a charming London Airbnb that held the whole club. It was a good weekend, and so innocent were we older ones that it wasn't until we got back and heard some of the rumours circulating from the Stanbury School gate that we realised what we had done. Worth Valley YFC, juniors and all, had stayed in a swingers party house. And when we look back, there may have been some telltale signs we had overlooked, such as the fact it was in Soho. The look of shock on the man's face when me, Susan, Winnie and Beth walked in to drop the bags off and told him that the kids would be along later. The hot tubs in some of the bedrooms. Some of the toys lying around in the cupboards. They weren't the Britain's Farm ones that we're used to. And also the fact that the accommodation's name was Sophia's Love Rooms. We had read it as Sophia's Lovely Rooms. As a club, we probably wouldn't have made it to 80 years if this story had made social media. But here we are, 80 years, 80 glorious years, as the strapline says. Well done to each and every one of you. To those that we have sadly lost along the way, and those who can't be with us tonight, thank you also. Now, my initial hope was to take a verbal wander through the history of the club, but it soon dawned on me that there's no point stealing stories from other past members and telling them, when the owners of those stories are here and they're far better at telling them than I am. So members, what I recommend is that you take time this evening to go and talk to members of the past and swap a few stories between you. So that still left me without a subject, but over the last few weeks I've been asked two questions. What are the attributes that makes a typical Worth Valley YFC member, and what would I say is the club's greatest single victory? So, tonight I'm going to use my speech to try and answer these questions based on my experiences from the time I've been around at the club, which, just so that you younger ones are aware, is only half of those 80 years. A Worth Valley member has the rare combination of being both laid back and yet highly competitive. This has led to us making some great friends across the district, county and country over the years, but also a few enemies. Now, Julie Houseman is our caterer today, and I'm sure you'll all agree that Julie, I'm sure she can hear us, and her team have done us proud. But there is a reason that the speeches are after the meals today, and that is because Julie is from Valley Estate. And I didn't want to hear in this next bit and putting in anything nasty in my food. Because I do have to say that we used to despise Valley Estate. Everywhere we went, there were the traffic cone gang, all in bright orange, always pipping us to the post, be it rounders, entertainments, judging, everything. We've always had rivalry with Lothersdale and Silsden, but they are healthy, friendly rivalries. Whereas it crossed the line a bit with Valley. Rob, out the back there, had built an incredibly strong club. Hello. Yeah, you know your place, go back there. He'd built an incredibly strong club at the time, and I think they were a little bit rattled. A genuine dislike emerged between the clubs, which culminated in a fight at a county dance. Now, as a sensible club leader, I suggested to Laura she send a letter of apology to county that included the following sentence. The family lot were all buzzing round us like annoying bees, and I got scared. I threw out a hand to waft them away. Unfortunately, my fist caught this girl right in the eye, and she dropped to the floor. I am very sorry. This backfired as it was taken as a written admission of guilt. And 2 of our members were banned from county dues, whereas the family members got away scot-free. Unbelievable. Now, after that, Sunday dinners at Wheathead became like a modern day government Cobra meeting, as the family and Cubby gathered to plot Valley Estate's downfall on a weekly basis. Luckily, relations between Worth Valley and Valley have improved over the years, until May, when some of their club leaders were overheard accusing Worth Valley of paying the judges when we came first and second in the county rally cookery display competition. Of course, we never pay the judges, we're too tight. That would be wrong as well, but we did do something similar once, and we can put that down to our, well, maybe my competitive nature. So this was when our crime prevention scheme, Fields of Vision, got nominated for a European Youth Council Project of the Year award, and the 6 nominated projects from across Europe went to a public vote on Facebook, with the promise that the winning representative, Joe Holmes was our representative, would get an all-expenses trip to Brussels on a youth conference. Now, I was studying the votes one day, and I noticed the Swiss entry was winning by a country mile, and had a lot of African people voting for it. I realised that the Swiss must be buying their votes, and I was disgusted. I was so disgusted that I thought 2 can play this game, and I went online and paid someone to cast votes for us. I got 2,000 votes for £5, which I thought was very good value. But when I looked, ours were all from people who were from South America. And every time we added a $5's worth of votes from Carlos Alcaraz and his friends, the Swiss would just slip Enoch Patumba and his friends a similar amount, and we were back to square one. This was when Joe was not as worldly wise as he is today, and he came to me one day and said, Abdul, we are second, but I have noticed that most of our votes are from South Americans. Yes, Joe, I said, Worth Valley has always had a big Latino following. And Joe seemed happy with that. Now, if I was a good president, I would say that in the end, the organisers realised that what was happening and disqualified us and the Swiss and there is a lesson there that cheats don't prosper. But what actually happened was they were so impressed that two groups had got so many votes that they let us both have the winner's prize. And Joe had a lovely time in Brussels. I'm sorry, I'm a bad president. Most Worth Valley members also have versatility. Now don't get me wrong, I love the traditional YFC disciplines, like the 6-minute speech, the brains trust panellist, the stock judging reason giving. They are all a great training exercise in public speaking. But if I'm honest, not all of these formats are often found in real life situations. So it's important that we give the members the chance to use the confidence and skills they've learned in Young Farmers in some real life situations, and as long as I can remember, Worth Valley has been providing such opportunities with some extracurricular activities. It's a wonderful thing to see, the moment that you see the penny drop for members that these acquired skills and confidence are transferable to other areas. It's like giving them a superpower that will benefit them, their club and their communities for the rest of their lives. A good example of this was 2007, when we were encouraged to apply for a grant from the Youth Opportunities Fund to purchase a small tent. We could use that at shows to promote local food, but the funds had to be pitched for by under 16s. Now, Alex Binns and Holly Ogden were juniors who had done public speaking, and crucially, they were also easily bribed, with the offer of a pizza on the way home if they stepped up to do this. We were told by the funders to aim high with our ask, because the funders would usually only give 10% of what we asked for. When they came out, they were like, yeah, it went okay. And they received their pizza as payment. The funders, though, were so impressed with them that they gave them every penny of the £31,000 that they asked for. And so we bought a big marquee with linings and floors. Credit must go to Oggy, because if it had not been for him, we would probably have wasted money on an inferior marquee. You know, the type that Matthew Binns lets blow away on a weekly basis. 15 years later, this marquee has done over 200 functions, many for young farmers within the club, district and county. It's provided the older members of YFC with something to do without the usual babysitting duties, and rewarded them in wages for their hard work and expertise with over £100,000 in their combined pockets. And it's brought 75k into the club. Not bad for the cost of 2 margarita pizzas. And they got a muffin as well, apparently. I must have been feeling very generous. A buffet! Oh, okay. Anyway, the main thing was we persuaded them to have a go, and they were successful. Now, once people start doing this, these things can get infectious. Everyone wanted a project, and so Worth Valley members have done food demonstrations, giving commentary to big crowds with radio mics. We made an animated DVD about where food comes from, painted giant sheep in the style of David Hockney, and still the most ambitious of all, having had no previous experience of land art, the club convinced a room full of boffins that we should be the ones to install 12 giant land artworks that made up the official route animation of Le Petit Depart when the world's largest cycling event came to Worth Valley in 2014. Absolutely ridiculous. But we did it because we had a go. And it's not just in their YFC lives that this confidence makes a difference. How many people here have got that dream job or uni place because of it? How many have had the confidence to start up that new business or go on to be officers in other organisations? Laura, organising YFC ski trips for over 30 people at a time. This would blow the mind of some people, but she just had a go and was successful. Madam Chairman, one of our members, using confidence, ingenuity and cardboard boxes to cover her number plates when leaving a car park which had number plate recognition cameras, to avoid car parking charges, recently avoided a car parking fine. And why? Because she had a go. I'm not saying that YFC should take credit for all of these things. Many would have done what they have done without young farmers, but I'm sure you'll agree it certainly hasn't counted against them. That said, you can get overconfident, as Thomas Ogden proved on a skiing trip when he suffered what is known as a bad Achilles injury, because he believed he could fly. He believed he could touch the sky. But we all know that Ogden should never leave the ground. And not even confidence can change the laws of gravity. To be fair on Oggy though, he did fly home early with his knee in pieces and his own private nurse looking after him. Worth Valley members are caring and look after each other. Okay, so recently 2 of our dyslexic members got YFC mixed up with UFC and had a bit of a scrap. But it's sorted now, and I would like to think that if a member past or present ever needed help, there would be a small army of us there to assist them. We are all very close-knit, and we all like a gossip, which is mainly a positive thing in our community. We've adapted a line from Crocodile Dundee and say that if you have a problem, you tell Will. He tells everyone else, and you don't have a problem anymore. Thank you, Will. Another attribute that young farmers have is diversity. When you visit some young farmers clubs right out in the sticks, their members can seem a little bit all the same. Perhaps this is because they are all inbred and share many family characteristics. But either way, I personally find that a little bit boring. Whereas I would say that we are probably as diverse a club as you will find anywhere in the country. Over the last 20 years, we have enjoyed the friendship of members of different races, evening one, different sexualities, backgrounds, and numerous different disabilities. As long as you don't take yourself too seriously and you have that have a go at anything attitude, that is good enough for Worth Valley, whatever you are. Having a go should be the Worth Valley motto. Whilst it's been a pleasure for me to witness the brilliance of Nathan, Joe, Will, Rachel, Jennifer and Eleanor, sorry I've got lost my place there, Will, Rachel Gallagher, Nancy and Eleanor Ellis at public speaking, and Sarah Leach, Rachel, Jennifer and Eleanor at stock judging. For me, I just get as much pleasure watching competitors that aren't from farming families, who are new to something, as they improve with practice, because that improvement is where we are here to help. The same applies for our dramas, pantomimes and entertainments. And yes, I've been very proud to have something that I've written performed by talented people like Michael Moore, Dalton, Dave Johnson and Harriet, but all of these had theatrical talents before YFC. So whilst we might have only improved them a tiny bit there, if at all. For me, the real stars of the show are the ones who, with respect, were truly dreadful. At least to start with, the likes of Phil Blackwell, Josh Hudson, Trigger, Royston and David Cox. That wasn't meant to be funny there. My point was that all of these improved beyond belief, and for an organisation that is about improving the skills and increasing the confidence, how can you beat that? Let's go back to David Cox. He's not our most decorated member, but he's a Worth Valley legend in my book. He won the horse judging at the district rally. Yeah, give him a round of applause. Despite not knowing one end of a horse from another, or what any of its parts were called. And those points he got were the difference between us winning the rally or coming second, because he had a go. Now, I have taken some criticism, and still do, for encouraging, let's say, oddballs and characters into this club, but I will stand by that. And here is why. With respect again, if Rebecca Udall went to national finals and won clay pigeon shooting or ladies sheep shearing, I would be proud as punch of her, but I wouldn't be surprised. And if Grace or Amy won the national flowers, or a Golding or Izzy Clay won the public speaking, I'd be super pleased, but not shocked. When you have been around this club for as long as I have, you live for the WTF moments. That wow, I did not see that coming in a million years moment. And luckily, in Young Farmers, there is always one of these waiting just around the corner. More often than not, it's the characters that bring these moments. I love an underdog story, and I believe that in YFC, every dog will have its day. Examples being Josh Hudson as the zombie bride on How a Theme last October. He was made for that part. Robert Rogerson turning from unknown to club legend after getting a standing ovation when dancing to the Roystone Cowboy in the drama. When Cubby caught the ball. Yes? Yeah. Yeah, Cubby caught a ball to make Worth Valley the National Junior Quick Cricket champions. When Joe, Beth and the team won the county rally in 2021. And that win, if anyone wonders, and you can see the little things on your tables, is what the star on the badge denotes. Or is it? Either of those last two examples would be worthy winners of my nod for the answer to question of the club's greatest single victory. As would the first district rally win in the late 1980s. The inaugural win of the Craig Coleman District Club of the Year trophy. Which meant then, and still means now, so much to us. There is no right or wrong answer. Everyone from down the years has their own greatest single victory, and that is how it should be. For my answer though, there is one more wow moment. One more story of where an underdog triumphs over adversity. Another tale of a dog who had his day, and my word, what a day that was. It wasn't even an official YFC competition. No judges, no sponsors, no scores, no prize cards. This is the story of a man who, although he couldn't foresee the housing market crash of 2008, he could see what none of us around the Wheathead War Cabinet could see. The way to defeat a swarm of annoying bees is to capture their queen. And that queen was Nicola Holmes. Arguably the best looking and most sought after female member in the county at the time, and the prize asset member that Farnley Estate cherished more than any of the trophies they had ever beaten us to. Now, not only did David realise how to beat Farnley Estate, but he decided he was the man to do it. Realistically, he had absolutely no chance. But what had Worth Valley YFC taught him? Have a go. And sometimes, a bit like with the horse judging, you might just get lucky. And did he. And with one kiss, all of our club's mental scar tissue from the years of getting walloped by Farnley was healed. Now, back to that star we put on our badge. Does it represent the county rally win in 2021? Or does that star actually represent Nicola Cox? Who our David snatched from Farnley Estate, and every time now that we compete against them, our members can point and wink to remind them that once we stole their queen. I'll let you all decide. Now, it ain't a fairy tale ending because obviously our hero, David Cox, and his lovely wife, Nicola, have moved back to the dark side now. And their children even go to Farnley Estate Club. But it was good whilst it lasted. And maybe it's not all bad, because if Emily and Edward have inherited just one little bit of their dad's genes, then for the next 15 years we'll always have a chance against Farnley in the drama. Keep having a go and have a great evening. Thank you very much. If anybody's got anything in their glasses, you can lift them up and let's toast Worthwhile Young Farmers 80 glorious years. 80 glorious years, there you go.
Do a countdown or something.